The knock on my door came at 6:47 a.m. sharp. You know, not the hour most folks expect trouble, but there it was, clear as day. Two deputies on my grandfather's old porch, steam curling off their coffee, breath turning white in the morning chill. "Sir, we got a report about illegal activity at this address. Mind if we take a look around?" And right over their shoulders, arms folded like she owned the place, stood Karen Morrison, president of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association, grinning in her perfect yard across the fence, watching like a hawk about to swoop. Let me tell you, if you've ever had a neighbor call the cops on you for just living in your own family's home, buddy, this story's for you. 3 months back, I figured the hardest part of inheriting my granddad's ranch would be scrubbing away a century of dust, maybe fixing up the old stone chimney, not fielding police reports from folks who thought they could outpaper a Caldwell on his own dirt. Boy, was I wrong. Turns out, the real challenge wasn't rot or termites. It was neighbors who saw an old farmhouse as a blemish on their beige paradise. First time I met Karen, it was one of those October mornings where the air bites your cheeks and the woodpile feels twice as heavy. I'm out back, sleeves rolled, hauling split oak, when she comes click-clacking up the drive, pressed khakis, tennis visor, sneakers so white you could signal planes with them. She picked her way across my gravel like she was crossing a minefield. That's when I knew. This lady has probably never chopped wood, never broken a sweat that couldn't be fixed by a trip to the spa. Behind her, Meadowbrook Estates sprawled out. Perfect lawns, identical mailboxes, hedges so square you'd think they were measured by laser. Then there's my place, 12 acres of original homestead, deed dating to 1903. My family's name carved into the oak beams, foundation set by my great-granddad himself. The floors worn down by boots that carried more than just dust. They carried every argument, every heartbreak, every bit of Caldwell stubbornness through 4 generations. Karen stopped just close enough to make her point, but not so close she'd risk getting actual dirt on her shoes. She had this look, half disgust, half pity. "Excuse me," she goes, like she's addressing a waiter who brought the wrong salad. "I'm Karen Morrison, president of the HOA. We need to talk about the smoke coming from your property." She pointed at my chimney like I was running a chemical plant. "We have air quality standards in this community. You're affecting property values." I set the wood down, wiped my hands, and studied her. You know the type. Voice loud, using titles like weapons, convinced authority is a hat you can put on and take off. I've dealt with plenty, so I just smiled. "Ma'am, appreciate your concern, but this land isn't part of your HOA. My family's had it since before your development existed." Her eyes narrowed. She wasn't expecting pushback. She switched gears fast, suggesting maybe we could arrange certain burning hours, trying to sound reasonable. But her tone said she'd already decided I was too stupid to be trusted with property. I looked over at those houses where nothing stood out and everything was regulation approved. "Mrs. Morrison," I said, "this isn't your development. My family's been here over a century. I'm not doing anything illegal, and I sure don't need permission." That's when the mask slipped. "Sir, you don't understand. This community has standards. If you think some old deed gives you a pass, you're mistaken. I know people in code enforcement. I can make things expensive for you." The threat hung there, almost funny if you've never had a neighbor like Karen. Except folks like her can ruin your life if you let them. I shrugged. "You're welcome to call whoever you want, but check your facts first." She stormed off, white sneakers flashing, and I thought that was the end of it. But as she crossed back into Meadowbrook, she turned, voice dripping with venom. "This community protects itself. We don't let outsiders ruin what we've built." Outsider. Funny word to throw at a Caldwell on Caldwell land. That evening, I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunset through my grandfather's oaks. The walls inside held nearly a century of Caldwell men, all stubborn, all proud. My granddad's sheriff badge, 30 years keeping order in a county that used to be more cattle than cul-de-sac, caught the last orange light. He always said, "Real authority speaks softly, because it doesn't have to shout." Karen was busy that night, I knew it. Probably flipping through HOA bylaws, certain a few phone calls would solve her problem. What she didn't know was, I spent 15 years learning exactly how the system worked. Next morning, a cruiser pulled up. Officer Martinez, young, sharp, polite, asked about my burn permits. Karen stood in her yard, arms crossed. grinning like the cat who caught the canary. I kept it simple. Fireplace is original. Burn pile is permitted. Everything's by the book. I showed Martinez my paperwork, permits, survey, even water supply for safety. He looked impressed, like he'd never seen a homeowner so ready. You familiar with county regs? He asked, scribbling notes. I just smiled. Comes with the territory. Then, wouldn't you know, Karen arrived with 3 neighbors, all puffed up and righteous. Officer, he's been burning illegally for weeks. They paraded witnesses. Martinez stayed cool. I've checked everything. It's legal. Unless you have evidence, there's no issue. Karen's confidence faltered. But the smoke, she protested. Surely there are rules about that. Martinez explained, again, that permits exist for a reason and my property was fully compliant. I looked her dead in the eye. This ranch predates your neighborhood by 80 years. We were here first. Martinez nodded. Everything's in order. As he left, Karen hissed, this isn't over. There are other agencies, other regulations. I called my granddad's old friend at the county recorder's office, just in case, and asked him to pull every file on my land and Meadowbrook estates. That night, Karen called, faking politeness. Maybe we can work something out. I shut that down quick. Officer Martinez already confirmed I'm legal. If you have concerns, take them to the county. Then came the digital war. My neighbor Tom sent me screenshots. Karen posting on every neighborhood app, stoking outrage, using words like dangerous activities and threats to our children. Complaints multiplied, screenshots and texts flying in from every direction. This wasn't neighborly concern. This was a smear campaign. By morning, county trucks rolled up, building inspectors, environmental compliance. I handed over every permit, every inspection, every receipt. The inspector, Brennan, went room to room, shaking his head. Most folks don't keep records like this. An hour later, he said, no violations, some of the best restoration I've seen. I knew that wouldn't be the end. Folks like Karen double down when they fail. And double down she did. Next came the news van. The local reporter, more drama. I met them with the same calm. Everything I'm doing is legal and permitted. County inspections confirmed it today. Even the reporter's fire faded when she saw there was no gotcha moment. That evening, Tom showed up, envelope in hand. Karen's not just making complaints. She's building a case, calling state, federal, environmental, historical agencies. She wants you gone. I thumbed through the evidence and felt a chill. This was no longer about smoke. This was character assassination. Karen assumed I was just another homeowner. She didn't realize who she'd picked a fight with. Then came the certified letter from the HOA, demanding I attend a community meeting about ongoing threats. Their bylaws don't even touch my land, but you know how these things go. That night, their community center was packed, Karen presiding like a judge, a slideshow of smoke and drama, riling folks up. She invited me to speak, expecting a confession, I guess. Instead, I pulled out the deed, burned permits, inspection reports. My family's owned this land since 1903. Not in your HOA, never has been. The room shifted. The story Karen sold them didn't hold up under real daylight. A man near the front raised a hand. If Mr. Caldwell isn't in our HOA, what authority do we have? Karen stammered, grasping for community standards. But the room had turned. Facts matter, after all. In the days that followed, Karen escalated. Anonymous calls, false reports, noise complaints, police at my door for everything from working late to suspicious activity. 7 false calls in 1 week. Officer Martinez pulled me aside. You want to file harassment charges? I nodded, collecting evidence, but I want to make it stick. What Karen didn't know. The HOA was claiming tax exemptions using my acreage, advertising my ranch as their rural buffer, while filing to kill my agricultural status. Fraud, plain and simple. I called Detective Marsh in County Fraud. You got documentation? She asked. Plenty, I said. Bring it in tomorrow. The next morning, another round. Environmental inspectors, news vans, more drama. Karen alleged I was destroying wetlands. The inspector, Garrett, spent 2 hours walking my land, shaking his head in admiration at my restoration work. If only more people took care of their land like this, he said. When the camera crew cornered me, I answered with facts, compliance, restoration, every line documented. Tom kept sending updates. Karen's campaign expanding, more wild accusations, even rumors I was a disgraced lawman run out of another county. She danced right up to the line of slander, hoping to freeze me out. I told Tom, "Careful, she'll turn on anyone who stands with me." And that night, sitting under the old oaks, I realized she'd underestimated what happens when you push a Caldwell too far. Meeting with Detective Marsh, I laid out the fraud, tax records, HOA paperwork, social media screenshots. "If this is what it looks like, she's in serious trouble," Marsh said. That same afternoon, another letter, the HOA requesting a county planning commission hearing, full-on public. Thursday, the hearing was packed, Karen with binders and suits, me with a single folder. She gave her speech, demanding my work stop immediately. I waited, then handed my deed and permits to the commissioner. This land predates Meadowbrook by 87 years. Never part of the HOA. Every activity inspected and approved. Commissioner Reeves asked, "Mrs. Morrison, do you have evidence of violations?" Karen fumbled. "Community standards matter more than old pieces of paper." The room went quiet. I pulled out my badge. "Commissioner, I'm Sheriff Ethan Caldwell. I documented every false report, every act of harassment." Karen's face went white. The neighbors looked horrified, realizing they'd backed a harassment campaign against the county sheriff. Reeves banged her gavel. "Complaint dismissed. Referring criminal charges to the DA. Mrs. Morrison, you should get a lawyer." Karen could only whisper, "If I'd known." But the truth was, it shouldn't have mattered who I was. Saturday morning, a group of neighbors appeared on my porch, Tom, Kent Riverside, and others, embarrassed, apologizing. "If we'd talked to you like neighbors, this wouldn't have happened." They offered barbecue invites, help with the restoration, finally seeing me as the neighbor I always was. Karen was removed as HOA president, forced into community service, public apology, and barred from leadership. A few months later, the new HOA invited me to a community event as a gesture of goodwill. Folks lined up to see the ranch, to hear stories about the land, to understand why some things are worth defending. That night, under the oaks, with my badge and my granddad side by side, I felt something settle, justice, real and true. 6 months later, Karen found me at the farmer's market. "Sheriff Caldwell, thanks for not pushing for jail time." I told her, "Justice is about learning, not revenge." She nodded. "I spent so much time thinking about what I wanted, I forgot other people had rights, too." And yeah, she learned it the hard way, but she learned. So here's what I want to know. Have you ever had someone try to use fake authority to push you off your own land? What would you have done in my shoes? Drop your stories below. Let's see who's got the wildest neighbor tales. And let's talk about what real justice actually means.